Hi there, I'm Scott Lowe with ActualTech Media, and today I'm at Imanis Data headquarters where I'm joined by Jay Desai, who's the VP for Products. Jay, thank you for having us here today.
You're welcome.
So tell us about the overarching picture of what Imanis Data is providing to the world.
So Imanis Data is a software product, and it's designed specifically for managing data in big data distributed platforms. And what we do is basically help our customers protect their data so that it's protected in case of a disaster or a user error. We also help them orchestrate data between on-prem and cloud, as well as for their testing efforts. And then the third thing we do is basically we automate that process using some of our machine learning capabilities, which we'll talk about as well.
And what are some of the differentiators in your product, and how does it compare to some of the other solutions that are out in the market?
Yeah, so Imanis Data was built from the ground up to manage lots of data, right? We're dealing with distributed databases which have tens of terabytes to petabytes. So we've designed the solution from the ground up to manage large volumes of data, right? So we can scale as a result, and we can perform very effectively in those environments. Second, because we're built for these environments, we're aware of these distributed environments, whether that be a Cassandra database, Hadoop environment. So we're very familiar with the application, and we're application aware. So that in itself is a big differentiator for us. And the last piece is the machine learning capabilities we talked about, right? We've built this platform because we are relying on machines to make decisions on behalf of humans, which is required and essential in a big data environment. It's very critical.
And I would imagine that the data velocity piece really requires machine learning at this point, because the velocity of data is far beyond what humans can comprehend.
Absolutely.
What are some of the key use cases that are being enabled by your machine learning capabilities?
So with one of the big use cases with machine learning is the ability to detect ransomware. Again, as you said, based on the velocity, you can rely on humans to make decisions about data changes that are happening. So any kind of anomaly, whether that be a ransomware attack against your data, it could be for a user deleting a lot of data accidentally, all those scenarios, we are able to detect those through our machine learning capabilities with our feature called the Threat Sense capability.
And so you've built that into a feature. And what else have you built in recently into the product? I understand there was a big announcement recently.
So we just released our 3.3 version of the product. It's a software product like we talked about. And there are three really big themes in that release with a lot of features. The first one is the ability to do disaster recovery for a Hadoop database. Disaster recovery is top of mind for most customers because they want to protect against a site failure. So we have built into our existing product the ability to create disaster recovery copies of data so that you're protected in case of a data center going down. So that's the first theme. The second is around making recovery much simpler for the user. Generally, people are more focused on backup and less on recovery. So we've made it easier for them to practice their recovery using our recovery sandbox capability, where they can actually test out the recovery process within the product and not disrupt their production environment. And the last thing is the machine learning capability we talked about, where we've now added twice as much metrics to build the machine learning algorithm that we have so that we can reduce false positives when it comes to detecting ransomware or other anomalies.
It's interesting to hear the sandbox piece of this, because we hear horror stories about people who think they have a disaster recovery plan that doesn't work. Because they never test it.
That's right.
And that becomes somewhat of a problem when they have a disaster.
Yes.
So that's really great to hear. I had a question around disaster recovery. How configurable is how does that work for the customer? I mean, what kind of RTO, RPO sort of things are they able to achieve with the disaster recovery capabilities?
That's a great question. So it is very flexible. So we have a lot of different variables they can tune depending on their RPO and RTO needs. They can go down to, for example, 15-minute frequencies. So if they want a very tight recovery time and recovery point objective, they can do replication every 15 minutes. If the data is not as critical, they can do every hour. And that's, again, depending on the type of data, you can apply different policies to the replication process.
And does the DR capability work in just fully on-premises type scenarios, or can they combine it with a hybrid cloud scenario so they can use the public cloud as a recovery target?
Yeah, so because we're a software-defined platform, we're pretty agnostic to where we are actually running. So you can now, with this example, you can do on-prem to on-prem disaster recovery. You can also do disaster recovery into the cloud, or from cloud to on-prem if you even want to do that.
Excellent. Jay, thank you so much for having us here today.
No problem. Thank you.
And thank you to our audience for watching this Roadcast video.